if you're not here yet, because things are going to be going on until 2. Free food, so many resources, guys. It is the place to be for post-incarcerated individuals, family members of incarcerated individuals, or anybody that wants to get involved with making the prison system in this country, especially this state, better. So good to see y'all. I'm going to be off camera for a minute, y'all, because I'm live streaming the speakers. Y'all are going to get some great information. This is the place to be.
Marcy, you could have done the whole opening.
well, this is kind of my thing.
Yeah.
So.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna let Maggie come introduce and open us up here, and we're gonna try to keep on time management with our agenda, so we'll have plenty of time to enjoy networking, socializing, and food. So I will, you see me waving at you, wrap it up, but here's Margarita Luna.
Hi everyone, I am Maggie Luna. Margarita is my government name, so please do not listen to her. So yeah, we're here today because I work for the Texas Center for Justice and Equity, but I am formerly incarcerated, and I know the difficulties it is to re-enter society after you've been convicted of a felony. And so through the work that I do with the Statewide Leadership Council, which is a group of leaders across Texas who go out and do community work just like this for people who are just like us. We've collaborated with several people here in Austin, and we're excited to be putting this on today with Rare Academy. Marcy, excuse me. Sorry, y'all, I vape. and we have all of these community members that you can check out their tables on the way out. But so I just wanted to tell you all, thank you so much for coming. We have a lot going on today. You'll learn about each of us and what we do in the community. And then if we can't do something, if you connect with us, we can guide you to wherever you may need assistance. Formerly incarcerated people are the silent majority, and so we need to start training our people up so we can start making change in our lives and the people we care about. Barbara, did you?
Come on up, Barbara.
I think, aren't you not supposed to do some introduction? Yeah. Okay.
I have a big old mouth. I don't even think I need this. Hi, so I am Barbara Ornelas, and I am the Executive Director at Rare Academy. Rare stands for Reentry Advocates Restoring Excellence. We are a reentry full wraparound support organization that is here in Austin, Texas. As Marcy said, we're at 1212 East Anderson Lane. And what we do is we start on the inside. So we go into the jails, we go into the prisons, and we talk to our peers about reentry and what it's like when you come home. And we're able to do this because everybody on our team have real life, real lived experience. I can't talk this way, I guess because this camera's on my face. So everybody has real lived experience. And so we already been through that struggle. We already know what it takes. We have faced all the barriers. We got all the rejection. So Rare was built to kind of streamline some of those things for people, for our peers coming behind us. So what we do here is we provide full wraparound services. The building that you're in, we have 20,000 square feet in here that we are occupying. We have licensed substance abuse counselors. We have licensed mental health counselors. We start with we provide digital literacy, so we train in Microsoft Suite and we train in the Google Suite. So for all of our clients coming home that maybe have never touched a computer in their lives, we're able to start with the basics and work them on up. And along the way, what we do is we sit down with each person individually and we figure out what it is that they are wanting to do with their lives, because that looks different for everybody. We have some people that come home and hit the ground running. They're like, I just need to get to work. You know, I have families, kids to support. So we partner with the Amazons, the Teslas, the Coca-Colas, the companies around Austin that already know what we are, who we represent. And we go to them ahead of time and we talk to them about bringing our clients on board with them. Then we also have occupational training. So if somebody is seeking their CDL, if they want to go get their HVAC certification, if they want to go get into electrician, plumbing, and things of that nature, we provide those services as well. Then we also have a entrepreneurship program that we're starting up. So we have found that a lot of us, we got a little sense, you know, we choose to use it, right? So a lot of people have been, you know, have these, what they think is hobbies that could be possibly turned into new career paths. So we help them and guide them along the way for that. And then we, at the end, our ultimate goal, of course, is to provide career pathway for everyone. So we figure out what it is they need to do to get on that path, and then we help them get on that path to start that new career so they can help support their families and themselves. All right? Okay, so that's about RARE. So please come see us. Our website is www.rareacademy.com. That is incorrect. www.rarereentry.com. So www.rarereentry.com.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am.
If someone's coming out, how would they, register for services like the computer training and everything?
So if I was smart, I would have brought some of my flyers up, but we have flyers that they can go to our website. There's, they just simply scan that QR code. We'll pass out flyers in a second here. Scan the QR code. It'll take them to a quick quick registration, and somebody will contact them within 48 hours, get them in and get them on their way.
All right, cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Yes.
Okay. I know you've got a loud voice, we have to use the microphone so that people in TikTok world and YouTube and the ether can hear us well. That's okay. You project, I know you will. So the next speaker I would like to introduce, her name is Marcy Marie. She has a wonderful platform on TikTok where she shares the stories of incarcerated women. And if you haven't checked it out, please do. It will really give you an insight into what women endure in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So Marcy, come on up and talk to us about stigma and the power of story.
Thank you. I have a big voice too, but I'll use the microphone as instructed. So my name is Marcy Marie. I'm so excited to be a part of this. This happening in our state this past couple years for previously incarcerated individuals and people coming out of prison is massive. It's so different just from 2 years ago, from 4 years ago, and forget about 10 years ago, right? We are making big change, and I'm so excited. I did time with Barbara, and so when I came home and found out what she was doing, it gave me goosebumps. I have it now because it's just that close to my heart, right? So we're talking about stigma, the stigma of prison. Anybody in this room who has been to prison and has had to say that to someone that didn't know it, knows the feeling of that stigma. Anyone in this room that's been to prison who has applied for a job and that background check come back and been told, sorry, we can't do it because of that background check. You know what that stigma is. So how do we change that? How do we change that? What would it look like if people that get out of prison and go to work and rock at their jobs? You know, I'm just thinking of myself. I get out of work. My first job was at an Amazon warehouse, and I loved it. People talk bad about that, but I loved it, and I think it's because I know how to work hard for nothing because I did it for the state for over 10 years. So I was happy to work hard for that change, right? And I was happy to go into that environment where I do kind of have a large social media platform, so it wasn't kind of long before my coworkers and my bosses and people started knowing, oh yeah, she just got out of prison. Yeah, that girl, she's been to prison. And I'm getting accolades and pats on the back. That looks really good for the next people coming up. Or any of my coworkers that might go start a small business or might be in a position where they're recommending people for work. That looks good to them because they're going to remember, oh yeah, that girl that got out of prison, man, she worked hard. But if we close our mouths and nobody knows if we're there working hard and doing everything we can to make that change and advance and following our directives, because Lord knows we know how to do that coming out of prison, then nobody knows we've come out of prison. They're not going to have that little seed in their mind. And so that's part of the way. I think that it's a natural reaction for the fact of the matter is, if you've been incarcerated, you are a trauma victim. Period. No matter what the circumstance is, even if you have the best time, the most family support, the easiest ride, the shortest sentence, you still experience trauma. And it is our natural defense to keep that trauma to ourselves. And that's completely understandable. So I'm not downing on anybody that doesn't speak up. Me, I'm kind of like, hey, I've been to prison. I have a big mouth. And not everybody has that same personality. So it doesn't have to be loud and on social media to share your experiences. It could just be within your family. You could just be making a difference to your children, your nieces and nephews, by sharing those experiences. Also, guys, it's therapeutic. So for me, my social media is hugely therapeutic. I process so much just telling little stories. And sometimes, if you've ever been on my page or if you go to it later, you're going to see one video. I'm like, hey, let me show y'all how to make pizza, how we made it in prison. And in one video, you're going to see one time an officer backed me into a corner, a 6'3" man, and told the other officer to get out of the room and close the door, and the fear that I felt that day. Because it just shows the whole picture. It shows how the humanity of it, and I think that's part of the power of storytelling, reliving. I think social media has opened so many doors for that because I think previously people didn't know. So many times and so many comments on my videos and so many people that I see, they just flat out had no idea what it was. Prison movies and prison shows, that's Hollywood. But they honestly didn't know the reality of it. They didn't know that 70% of prisons in Texas had no air conditioning. What? They're shocked to learn that. Texas A&M did a study last year and it showed temperatures from 110 degrees to 149 degrees where humans are living. And they had no clue. People had no clue. We were at Texas A&M where the study was done, set up, talking to students, and they had no clue. They were shocked. They were shocked. This is why storytelling is so important. Storytelling is what preserves our history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think that it's just important to share that, and even if it's not in this massively public forum, even if it's in your AA group or your NA group or amongst your family, friends, coworkers, people you trust, it doesn't have to be so massively. But just that little bit of spreading awareness, those small steps, is what makes the mission progress, right? And then we'll talk some more about what is the mission later, right? So, yeah. What else? Does anybody have any questions for me? You can ask me anything, literally. Yes, ma'am.
What's your TikTok?
My TikTok is Marcy Marie, MarciMarie 114.
Do you know Rosie O'Donnell?
On the Rosie Project.
Okay, I do know Rosie O'Donnell. So she found me on TikTok, this girl that had just gotten out of prison a year ago. Can I pause right there about the Rosie, and I promise I'll come back? Because let me say, I couldn't talk about my prison time the first year I was out. It took me a full year after serving 11 years in prison, it took me a full year to be able to talk about it. And that's okay too, right? We're all healing from our trauma. That everybody is in their own time. So I don't want you to think that there's a time frame there. It's not. Is it 5 years out? Is it 1 year out? Who knows? And at 1 year out, I was like, okay, this is we got to rock and roll with this. And then a few months later, I'm on the phone. How do I get into advocacy? I want to make changes. So that's how my path went. So here I was on TikTok making my little videos, showing people how we ironed our clothes in prison, talking about the heat in prison. And Rosie O'Donnell starts commenting on my videos. And we were like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, that's just what we thought about it. And then she private messaged me on TikTok. And y'all, I was in the ladies' room when I saw that message. So I looked at it and I was like, wait, is this really her? You know, because I'm looking for the little check mark, which means that that account's been verified and shown who that was. And so I'm checking that out and I'm looking, I'm like, so pulling up my britches and washing my hands and running down the hall, Brittany, you know, because she messaged me, hey, you have a story to tell and I want to help you tell it. So that's really exciting. The way that has progressed, what that will look like is a television show. And she's going to act in it. So that's really exciting. And we're looking at probably next year that will start airing. The great thing about that show, what it will be, it's not going to be necessarily a prison show. It's a life after prison show.
Yeah.
So it's going to show me my story. I'm not going to act in it. Some cute actress is going to act in it. And it's going to show my story, my character, healing with my kids. What does it look like going to prison with 2 children in diapers and 3 in middle school, and coming home to 3 adult children and 2 in middle school? It's going to show just what it is getting a job, what it is facing that stigma as a felon. So, but the great thing for us and for the progression of this movement to change the prison system is that it's going to have flashbacks of me in prison, the Texas prison system. So I have full veto on any storyline that comes up. But what I have told the writers and her throughout this process is, whatever you do with my story, make it cute, make it marketable, make people want to watch it, make some money, the whole thing, right? But when it comes to the prison scenes, that has to be solid.
Yeah.
There's no wavering there. It's not, we were riding for 2 months like some other shows, or just this absurd thing where I'm hanging out in my girlfriend's bed all day. And you know, it's just the harsh reality, the humanity, the way that people come together and support each other, and the ugly side too, right? So that's what's happening on that end. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I didn't ask her to ask that. Any other questions, y'all? Any other questions about how do you beat the stigma if you're personally feeling afflicted in any circumstance or anything? Okay, Jennifer. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Thank you for everything you've shared. But what do you want? I'm sure you have many takeaways, but I guess what's the primary takeaway that you want folks to walk away with when they look at your social media account and they learn about these various experiences, from the joy that you experienced, but also the hardship of it? But I guess what's one key takeaway?
This is an excellent question. My main takeaway is I love when people look at me and say, you don't look like you've been to prison, or you don't look like a felon, or you don't talk like a felon. Well, what does a felon talk like? What does someone that made a bad decision in their life that led them to incarceration look like? So I want them to know that felon doesn't have a face. Felon is every face. 8% of the population has a felony conviction in this country. Felon is every face. So, yeah, great question. I appreciate you. Anything else, y'all?
Well, she'll be here all day.
I will.
She'll be here all day. Thank you so much, Marcy. Yeah, thank you. That was great, and you know, I always say that narrative is the heart of advocacy. Things that you can have all the data and all the studies, but without the human component, without the story, change doesn't happen. So we appreciate your vulnerability and everybody's vulnerability, whether it's social media or whether it's at the Capitol or whether it's within your families. If we don't, and Maggie says this a lot, if we don't own our stories, someone else will. The state of Texas will own it, and they'll whitewash it and make it whatever they want it to be. So it's finding that empowerment to own your story and tell it the way that you want to tell it is super impactful. So thank you, Marcy. Next, we're going to have the Austin Liberation Youth Movement come in and talk to us about something that is really close to all of our hearts that work on advocacy. It is the Finish the Five campaign. A lot of us in this room that have criminal justice involvement, many of us started in the juvenile justice system. And if you've been looking at the news recently, and if you look at the youth system in Texas, go back 100 years, you'll see a cycle of scandals, abuse, neglect, horrifying. Y'all, if you think TDCJ time was bad, I'm telling you right now from experience, the Texas Youth Commission, Texas Juvenile Justice Department, it is the stuff that keeps me awake 30 years later. What happened to me there 2 years versus the 18 years that I spent in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. It is that bad. So we're really excited that this is a youth-led movement, and they're going to tell us some ways that tell us about the problem, the solution that we think that's going to actually change the system for good, in ways that people can get involved.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. My name is Krupali Kumar. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm part of the Austin Liberation Youth Movement. I'm one of the co-founders. And we are an organization that started a little over 2 years ago. And our focus right now is on prison abolition. And this campaign, which I'll explain in a little bit, is really focused on prison abolition and focused on centering youth voices, because the crisis that's going on at the Texas Department of Juvenile Justice is affecting young people like us. So our theory of change is sort of that the people closest to the problem should be the ones closest to those solutions. So I will let my co-organizer Eden talk a little bit about who we are, and our other organizers have some things to say, and then we'll circle back and explain what this campaign is all about and how you can get involved, even if you're not a young person.
Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Eden and I'm one of the organizers for Austin Liberation Youth Movement. We are also we also refer to it as ALYM, so if you hear that a couple times, that's just our organization. And so yes, we started a little over 2 years ago, and we are a grassroots youth-led organization trying to implement social justice change. And right now we are just in the Austin area, but we are trying to branch out, and that includes working with the Texas Center for Justice and Equity on the Finish the Five campaign, which our other organizer, Ellen, will talk about.
Hi guys, I'm Elle. So the Finish the Five campaign is, there are 5 youth prisons left in Texas. So the goal right now is to close them permanently. By, I believe our goal year is 2027, hopefully. We do have our legislative session coming up in January, and that's where we will testify and give testimony on why youth prisons are not the solution. And so the goal right now is that no youth ever should be put into prisons. The prison systems right now are, like Jen said, horrible. And so the goal is community-based healing. That is our goal. Doesn't matter what they did at the end of the day, no matter how severe the crime was, their goal should be atonement and healing, not punishment, because punishment, as we have seen a million times over, gets us nowhere. It just makes them angry. And angry people don't always make the most rational decisions, because anger is not a fun feeling, and you can't ever blame somebody for that. So what we hope to do is send these kids home. That is our main goal. Send them back, and if they don't have safe environments to go home to, we create safe environments for them to go home to. Have their communities advocate for them. Have their communities be the ones responsible for the rehabilitation centers, the mental health centers, all of things like that. And at the end of the day, nobody should ever be so far from home. Nobody should ever feel like they've done something so horrible and so unforgivable that they can't go home and they can't go back to their communities and they can't start again. These are children. At the end of the day, no matter what, these are children. And our brains are not even close to fully developing until 21 years old, and yet you can be moved into adult facilities in the state of Texas at the age of 17. Their brains are not developed. Sometimes people do horrible things, but that does not mean that they are horrible people. And let alone, there is no such thing as a horrible child. So that is our goal, and we will have one-pagers to hand out if anybody has any questions, and I'm going to hand it over to my other core organizer, and she's going to explain what exactly we know right now that's going on in these prisons and exactly why they desperately need to be closed.
Thank you. My name is Shreya Arvin. I'm also an organizer with AOYM. And like Elle was saying, one of the biggest issues that we see within these youth prison centers and these youth facilities is the perpetuation of these cycles of violence and poverty, which further the cycle of incarceration. And if we want to actually effectively break these cycles, we need to end it at the root problem. And some of the issues that are happening within these facilities, as the testimonies of so many former incarcerated youth show, is the sexual abuse that happens in these facilities. There's countless documented instances of these abuses happening, as well as issues with supplies and resources within these facilities not being distributed adequately, despite the excessive, huge amounts of funding that go into these systems. And that's part of the reason why in this campaign, we are emphasizing the allocation, or rather reallocation of the funds that are going into these prison systems to instead go to community and local health centers, including mental health supports, which can adequately address the needs of the youth who are being placed into these systems. And oftentimes we see that the youth who are at risk and the incarcerated youth who are currently in these systems come from places where there is a lack of funding for the community structures and the family structures needed to facilitate a healthy environment for them. And that is why we are so focused on making sure that the funding goes into the right places they need to be going to. So that's part of the Finish the Five campaign movement. There's also many ways you can get involved. As our organizers were saying earlier, our main target is, of course, speaking at the legislative session. That way they can implement the policies that are part of the Finish the Five campaign movement. And also, we'll be having our rally in January to directly address the Capitol and let them know that we are here, we are speaking on behalf of the at-risk and incarcerated youth, that there are people and there's a community out there to support these individuals in need. And that is why we encourage everyone to show their support in whichever way they can and to get involved, which we will be tabling outside, and there will be like a way that you can, there's like a Google form and a one-pager which will further tell you about the Finish the Five campaign movement and also how to get involved. So
we have questions?
I just wanted to add one thing. So a question that always comes up is, where do the youth go? You can't just simply shut down these prisons and then they go nowhere. So one way we want to implement this is to have communities have rehabilitation centers, different mental health centers, where these kids can go and get the treatment that they need, especially for the kids that maybe don't want to change their ways. They would go to these different centers and rehab places, and basically, yeah, that's where they would go.
Yep. Any questions or anything?
I will really quickly, before questions, explain the different parts of the campaign. So as my co-organizer said, we have a one-pager here, and when we set up tabling, if you all are interested, come by and pick one up. But basically, the way that our coalition is organized, we're trying to build a coalition of around 100 organizations and 200 individuals to be a part of this campaign. And so we meet every Wednesday at 4:30, from 4:30 to 5:30, and we plan on doing this until the end of the legislative session. And within the coalition, we have 4 major subcommittees. So we have a policy committee, an outreach committee, a research committee, and a protest committee. So our 4 committees are focused on building different parts of this campaign. So our policy is focused on editing the language of our bill. So we've already pre-filed a bill, which is advocating for shutting these prisons down, along with a host of other policy proposals. Our policy team meets every Friday to kind of figure out how can we make the language of the bill more specific, because the one thing legislators will want to know is, okay, we understand the problem with TJJD, but what is the solution? How are the funds going to be reinvested? And vagueness doesn't really help us here. So the more specific we are, the more specific our solutions are, the more plausible it is that this bill will get passed. And it takes a lot of manpower for us to figure out what those solutions are. It takes a lot of research, looking at, empirical evidence about how has prison abolition happened in other states. And it has. It's happened in Illinois, it's happened in California, it's happened internationally, and there's so much research out there that we can pull from to really support this policy. We also have our research committee, which is focused on different areas of research related to incarceration. So some folks are focused on understanding the psychological impact of being incarcerated as a young person. As my co-organizer Elle said, these kids are so young and they're in their formative years, and their brains are not even fully developed yet. So how does something like being in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day without access to sunlight, that profoundly impacts these kids when they don't have the basic resources they need to survive? And I think what is so cool about this coalition is that it's led by young people like us. So we can help our peers. We can say, hey, look, some of us have access to resources and it has helped us, but other peers like us don't. And we know that this has been successful for us. There's nothing intrinsically different about the kids who are being incarcerated and us, because we've been given access to resources to deal with issues like mental health. But unfortunately, lower income communities, Black and Hispanic and other communities of color, are disenfranchised, marginalized, and they don't have access to those resources. So our research committee is kind of doing a lot of work on figuring out, okay, what's the psychological impact of incarceration? What is going to be the economic impact of shutting down TJJD? Because that's going to lead to millions of dollars, being freed up. So how are we going to reinvest that money? What about the people employed at TJJD right now? How are we going to take care of that issue? So as you can see, there's a lot of nuances to this campaign, and we have a lot of organizers currently working on doing research for these different areas, but the more the better, because the more we can branch out and the more specific we are, ultimately the better it is when we testify in this session, because there's going to be so many questions from legislators about what about this, what about this, what about this, and we want to have the answers. Lastly, we have our outreach committee and our protest committee. So outreach is pretty broad, and Marcy, who just spoke, is a part of our outreach committee, and she's helping us do a lot of social media stuff, social media outreach. One of the benefits of this campaign, or rather one of the advantages, is that it's already under DOJ investigation, Department of Justice investigation. That means that it's already under a national investigation, which means that it has the potential to reach a national level of awareness. We see that with youth prison abolition movements in California and Illinois, those received national awareness. And because Texas is such a conservative state, this campaign that we're working on is almost so hard for many legislators and people to conceive of, which in and of itself will make it a very interesting campaign for people to want to learn more about. So our social media team is kind of hammering down how can we, spread our outreach on Instagram, on TikTok, on all these different platforms to reach young people. And lastly, our protest committee is involved in organizing rallies, marches, and other sorts of direct actions to raise awareness about this event. So as Shreya mentioned, in January we're having a bunch of different direct action events. So in January 10th, which is the first day of the legislative session, we're planning an advocacy day where we're going to rally outside the Capitol, the gates of the Capitol. We're going to hope that some of the legislators who have expressed support for their campaign may come and speak about it. But we're hoping a lot of young people will show up and show that this issue needs to be what is the most important issue of this upcoming 88th legislative session. So we're really trying to set the precedent for the session by rallying on the first day of the session and saying, this is the issue that we care about and that all of you should care about as well. We're also planning teach-ins and other marches, rallies throughout the course of the legislative session. So if you're interested in helping coordinate that or even showing up to express your support, that really is so important. And then lastly, on the day that we testify in our hearing, we want as many people in our base to show up to the session as possible. I think one of the advantages of grassroots organizing and lobbying as a grassroots organizer is that maybe we don't have, the money or the other means to make our policy stand out, but we have people power, and that is so important. Because when people show up and say that this issue matters to them, it doesn't matter how much other lobbyists are paying for their policy to get, the highlight. It doesn't matter because there's not public support. And when we have, the power of the people show up in these institutions that we need to work against because they serve to disenfranchise the working class and the lower class, we're showing that we do have that power. And so even if you can just show up to the legislative session the day that we are testifying, that means so much, and that will really make a statement. So I know that was a lot of information. I just wanted to explain what I explain every coalition meeting in like 5 minutes. But if you're interested, please come to our table and we'll explain more about it. I'll hand it over to any, if y'all want to say anything else. If not,
move on.
Yeah.
I have to move on. Do you have any questions?
If you have any questions, please come over. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you
so much. And again, it is a campaign that is dear to a lot of our hearts because we were all, most of us who are in the adult system started off in the terrible Texas juvenile justice system. So again, talking about the power of narrative and story, I know that, and Maggie's going to talk about some legislative stuff and some priorities later, but I just want to make a note that it can feel very intimidating for those of us who have been in the system and even just average citizens, right, to go to the Capitol and to testify. But what Maggie always reminds me when we walk into an office, she said, girl, this is my house. This is our house. So we belong here, and they work for us. And some of them really understand that and cherish that role, and then some of them need to be reminded of that. And that's what we're there to do. So, again, if you would like to reach out to me and probably Marcy if you want to learn more about storytelling and how to craft, we're going to have some advocacy trainings as well about how to craft your story in a way that doesn't, feel traumatic to tell it, but empowering. We would love to help you do that. So next, and hey, I'm so proud of us, we're staying on schedule. Next, where is Sybil?
I am.
There she is. Yeah, so Sybil is going to come talk to us a little bit more about self-advocacy and what that means and what that looks like, and tell us about Taj.
All right.
That's Texas Advocates for Justice.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be in this place. I appreciate RARE for hosting this event because Prison to Power says something all by itself. It says, we are not our record. It says that your mistake does not define your destiny. I didn't memorize anything, you guys forgive me. I am a old school kind of girl. I write things down. Hand script, not the typewritten kind of thing. You understand me? So I'm gonna talk, like Jennifer said, on self-advocacy. I titled this, "A Closed Mouth Does Not Get Fed." For those of you who do not understand or recognize what that means, it's another individual or entity cannot read your mind. See, I've been to prison. When I got out, I needed things. I got out with $50 and a birth certificate. That was in 1998. Don't know what it looks like now. From what I understand, you don't get out with a birth certificate anymore. You don't get out. All you have is your offender's card. And that has a number on it, right? How do you move forward if you're steady looking in the past? So speaking for me as a formerly incarcerated human, mother, and veteran, while I was in prison, I was a role model inmate. I was involved in everything. An old timer told me, do time, don't let time do you. I did not understand. I didn't understand what that meant. But as he or she kept pulling on me, because you need somebody to see your potential. See, we didn't grow up to dream when we go into prison. All right, that's not a child's dream. We don't dream of what a criminal is. We don't even know what that looks like. So I was thankful that this person kept pulling on me. So when she said, do time, don't let time do me, I became intentional with every move. I decided to fill every moment that I had with something. I took time to investigate, to invest in me, because I believe and I had heard, if you don't prepare to win, if you don't prepare to be successful, then you prepare to fail. You prepare to lose. It is better to be prepared for the opportunity, lest the opportunity arise and you are not prepared. Sidebar. I handwritten it. No. Joking joke, okay? So I took the time to invest in me. If I'm being truly transparent, though I went to school, though I was in the choir, though I was a member of everything, directed plays, though I got a mentor, if I'm really being transparent, the mentor couldn't relate to my story. Why? She had never been to prison. Look at me, y'all. I'm a black lady. She was white. She had never been to prison. But she was my mentor nonetheless. She had things that I needed. Thereby, I opened my mouth. I want to say to you, it takes courage to open your mouth and ask for help. If you do not advocate, speak up for yourself, no one can speak up for you because they do not know what your need is. You have to put all pride aside. You have to know and understand. Ask yourself, haven't you suffered enough? You have to ask yourself, do you believe that you deserve this thing? I want to say, submit to you that Self-advocating, it's the ability to identify your needs, to communicate them clearly, and to help others understand how they can support you. That's very important. Because see, when I got out, they didn't tell me that I was coming to an unforgiving society, a society that believes in punishment. Punishment. That's it. That's all. Period. End of story. They do not ask you, what have you done with your life since you have come back to the society in which you have left? Now you're here. I need a job. I need housing. I need resources. I need somebody to help me get my driver's license, my social security card. I need someone to help me get there. How about that? I need transportation. Don't y'all know that $50 when I got out that day was gone that same god-dangity doggone day? Okay? And don't you know I was identified immediately at the bus station because what? I had the white commissary bag. I had on clothes that were made by the inmates, by people like me that either were scrubs, I looked like I just got out of a mental institution, or where else? Jail. I am a prime target for everything that I left. Let me remind you, incarceration is not rehabilitation. So it is important that you speak up for yourself. It is important that when you come out here, that you say, I need help. Did I say it was easy? Did you guys hear me say anything about it's easy to ask for help? It is not easy. It takes courage. It takes a set of That's what it takes. It takes you believing in you. That's what it takes. Because I know me the best. How dare I? How ignorant would I be if I left my destiny up to a stranger who does not even know who I am? They don't know my story. How about the power of storytelling? I'm here to give you hope. I'm here to say I'm not my record. I'm here to say self-advocating for myself is important. If I don't speak up for me, who's going to speak up for me? If I don't believe in me, who's going to believe in me? If I don't make that move, who's going to move my leg for me? No one. No one is going to do that for you. But you have to have the gumption. You have to be so tired of being so tired of being so tired of being so tired of hearing and being the statistic, the status quo, the forgotten one, the one with a number. They don't even know your name. Today, my name is Sybil Sunday Sabir. I'm a human being. I'm a mother. I'm a spirit. I'm a veteran. I serve this fine country. The country has not served me. So at Texas Advocates for Justice, we take people like me. We come in, we give them education, we teach them how to take their voices to get behind a bill, a policy, whatever we may be passionate about, so that we can go and impact change. We can't do it alone. Let me say something. When you're confident about a topic, boy, you got a pep in your step. You walk a different kind of way. But when you don't know about a thing, then you can't talk about a thing. You like, right? Because you don't know anything about it. At Texas Advocates for Justice, we're going to give you training, education to build upon your lived experience, to amplify those things that are important to you, to abolish slavery in every form of the word, to annihilate and demolish mass incarceration, to stop deportation and the criminalization of migrants, because migration has been going on since the beginning of time, since human beings have come into existence. Why all of a sudden that people cannot move from one place to the next? I'm here to say, speak up for yourselves. Speak up for yourselves. Ask for help when you need it. Get into places with people like you that are doing positive things. Again, put your pride aside. Haven't you suffered enough? I suffered enough. I got tired of people telling me what to do, how to do, when to do. I can't go use the bathroom. I got to stand up when you say stand up. I can't even lay down when I want to go to sleep. Let me say, if you do not open your mouth, a closed mouth does not get fed. And be careful. What you put in is what you gonna get out. Just like that. We have to ask. Let me say something else. We take for granted the small accomplishments that we make after we re-enter society. Because it wasn't easy to stand in lines. It wasn't easy to say, to go to the AA meeting and the AA meeting. I got to get this paper signed. I got to get that paper signed. I got to be in here. I got to pay this. I ain't got a job. I just got a job. Now I'm asking my manager I need off because I got to have a parole visit at home. See, it ain't easy. I ain't saying it's easy. What I'm saying is doable. And when you do it, acknowledge the fact that you did it. You did it. You did it. See, we have to know that we are capable of achieving our goals. We have to know that. And so we have to take pride in the little victories, because the little victories make big victories. So acknowledge each and every one of them. Each and every barrier that you cross, acknowledge it. Listen, barriers are merely obstacles. They're merely obstacles in workload. Put your hard hat on. Don your steel-toe boots, because it's another rung in your ladder to success. But if you don't put it in place, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't advocate for yourself, if you do not speak up for yourself, if you are that kind of person who sits by and says, I'll let somebody else do it for me, then I'll just be praying for you. That's what I'll be doing. Because how dare you leave your destiny in the hands of a stranger? How dare you? not participate in your own life? How dare you? How dare you? Haven't your experiences been enough? Advocate for yourself. Say something. Stand up. Have some energy. Be about your business every single day. Be intentional. You have something to do. When I didn't have a job, let me tell you about me. I was on my Social Security disability. I got a job now at Grassroots Leadership. Hey, I'm the organizer, relocated from Houston, Texas to Austin, Texas, to be the criminal justice field organizer for Texas Advocates for Justice in Austin. Let me tell you, from under $1,000 to a 5-figure salary, let me tell you, it is my lived experience and gratitude, my humility, my asking for help. It is not being too proud to say, I need help. So I came around the rooms where people were like me, who could identify, relate with, and to. And here I am today. So advocate, speak up, acknowledge your goals. Come to Texas Advocates for Justice. We have meetings every fourth Wednesday of the month. I have a table. Come get some flyers. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sybil. Yeah, I've known Sybil since I got out of prison. And they used to call her Baby Oprah back in Houston. So, next we have Jennifer Toon coming up here to talk about the women's justice landscape. And of course, we need somebody who's been there and seen every facet of it to help guide us in the women's justice movement.
Thanks, Maggie. And we're going to stay on schedule and maybe a little early because I smell food down the hall. And I don't even know if I can concentrate on what I'm going to say because it's close to lunchtime. And there's a limit of how long you can sit in those chairs, so I recognize that. My name is Jennifer Toon. I did almost 20 years in the Texas youth system and the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I know many of the ladies in this room who I did time with. And yeah, I just want to stop and take a moment for everybody to notice that this event that was hosted by these wonderful organizations is System Impacted Women leading this. And I just want to acknowledge that because for so long, the system has tried to, in not just the criminal justice system, but period, has tried to silence the voices of women. And those of us that have been in the criminal injustice system, the ways that they did that on a daily basis, the indignities that we suffer that are hard to explain. And I wrote an article called Invisible Scars for the Texas Observer. And I try to take every opportunity I can to say that, you know, our brothers that suffered incarceration, you know, we have a lot of similar experiences. But the way that we suffered these invisible wounds to our spirit, only other women can understand that. Even women that have never been incarcerated. The wounding of our spirit, those quiet ways that we were shamed or humiliated on a day-to-day basis. And in that article, I talk about a woman I knew that she had a lot of kids. She had like 5 or 6 kids. And her mom was finally able to bring those kids to visitation to see her. And we were talking about, like, well, my parents are coming in that weekend. It'll be cool. I didn't say I didn't have kids, you know. And I remember when we were getting stripped out, I walked in while she was getting a strip search, and there was a particular officer in our unit that, you know, really gave those indignities out and that shame. And so there is something especially painful about getting strip searched as a woman and having staff berate you, just constantly. You know, our body odors, the way our bodies looked, our menstrual cycle, because, I mean, you're getting stripped, all of it is bare. And this feeling of just humiliation when you have to be strip searched anyway, but having those indignities put on you. And I walk in and she's telling, you know, she's just berating her. Like, you know, I can't believe that you would do this to your mama. She's bringing these kids up here. I don't even know why she bothers. You know, you're not at home taking care of them. You're up here playing around. And I remember the look on her face. And y'all know that look. That look of, I'm dissociating, I'm shutting off, and I'm just like, yes, ma'am. I'm taking my clothes off, search, and she's just staring at the ground. And I walk in, and the officer turns to me, and she was like, you know, berating me. Toon, what are you looking at? You want to go back to the dorm? You need to start straight. And she's just berating us, and we're looking at each other with this, that look I know so well. And I know what she's thinking. Dear God, don't let this woman do this in front of my family. And she did it. She berated her child in front of her, and it was like the whole visitation room was just frozen because we know we don't have a voice. Because the second we say something, she's going to cancel all of our visits. She's going to take it out on our visitors. And I know that the men suffer those things too. But there is just a certain type of psychological terror that staff would do to us. So, you know, there's about 8,000, a little lower now, women that are in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. We started a group, and you may notice some of our shirts, it says Lioness, Justice Impacted, Women's Lioness. So you might be wondering, we all said, I'm never going to wear white again. I'm never going to wear white again. Right? But we chose this for a reason, because we stand in solidarity with the women who are incarcerated. We still wear white, because they are us, and we are them. And we chose the symbol of a female lion, right? Because what better symbol of sisterhood? They fight together, they hunt together, they protect the pack, even when the guy wanders away. They're there for each other. And this was a dream of ours. Many of us in this room and the ladies that are on our steering committee, we dreamed of this, sitting at the back tables at Mountain View. It's like, I'll be damned if I get out and I leave these women behind with no voice. So that's what we're here for. So if you're a system-impacted woman, please join us. I've got my cards. We've got fiscal sponsorship, which means that we can start doing grants, we can start getting donations, and start building our base and getting cool shirts out to everybody that wants to stand in solidarity with us. This upcoming session, it's going to be our first session as Lioness, so we're taking it a little slow and looking from the lead from Maggie with Statewide Leadership Council. And we've got three main priorities. We've got conditions of confinement. We'll be working on a bill about the air condition. Marcy mentioned that earlier, and we all know how horribly hot, dangerously hot it is in the Texas prison system. Many of us were at Hobby Lane State, dare I mention that horrible word. It's just ferocious. And other conditions of confinement. The plumbing's bad, the infrastructure's bad, Hilltop should be condemned. It's a gazillion years old. It's got rot and asbestos and all that other stuff. So we're going to be working on conditions of confinement. We're also going to be working on women's programming. So guess what? Pell, which, you know, if you're a college student, you know what Pell is, right? It's free money to go to school. That was denied incarcerated students for a long time. So Pell will be implemented next year. And the ladies, this opens up a lot more college programming. And some of the half-assed measures that they were still going to try to do, we quickly nipped that in the bud with one of our steering committee members. She works at Ed Trust, and she is specifically helping with drafting bill language about college and higher education for the ladies. So we're on top of them. We got our eyes on them. And then the other priority is parole. And Maggie's probably going to talk a little bit more about SLC priorities, but y'all remember when you did everything you were supposed to do? Those ladies on the inside, those guys on the inside are doing every single thing they know to do to get home to their families, and they have no idea what more they can do when they continuously get denied parole over and over and over with no explanation under those, dozens of general guidelines. It was this, with no specific understanding of what am I doing wrong here? What more can I do? So this parole bill will hold them accountable to the individual treatment plans, those things that classification would send, and when you'd ask for them and they didn't make sense, well, we're going to make them make sense, and we're going to hold them to making sure that parole starts to utilize those in the way that they should. So I think I'm done. If anybody has any questions about women in the system, please get with us, or a lady that you see with a Lioness shirt on, and I've got my cards to hand out, and we would love your support as we continue to grow and gather women and just really establish a strong foundation of system-impacted women's voice in the state of Texas. So, thank you. I will turn it over to
Okay, so thank you all for being here and learning about everything that's happening with the system-impacted community. And like Jennifer said, we're all system-impacted women, and that's what makes this so amazing. I didn't really put it together until she said something, and I was like, oh my God, you're a liar. This is crazy. But anyway, so I'm here to talk about upcoming legislation. So what I do with the Statewide Leadership Council is I go in the community, get leaders that are wanting to make change but just don't know how to. When I first got out of prison, I didn't know how a bill was made. I had to watch I'm Just a Bill on and I was listening to these things that people were saying, and it was like I felt so stupid. I did not even finish high school. I spent 20 years in and out of the prison system, and 20 years on the streets. So I knew a lot about how to hustle. I knew a lot about street lingo. But when you're talking about House representatives, and I was like, what is, I didn't know that there were two houses. I didn't know that this moved through one house. It just was baffling to me. But I knew that when I was sitting in prison, I was dying from the heat. I was taking showers with maggots. There was bugs in our food. I mean, it was just disgusting. And the women that I was locked up with were all special. No matter what they did or where they came from, they all had something to offer this world if just given the opportunity. And it's so important to realize that we do have people locked up right now that could offer this world so much. Whenever I got out and started learning this stuff and realizing that there needs to be change somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go up in there and I'm going to tell these people what's happening. Because if somebody knew what was happening, they would change it, right? Well, I went to the legislative session in 2019. They were saying all of this stuff is happening in TDCJ, and I'm like, no, it's not. That is not how it's happening. I just got out, and I'm telling you that's not what's happening. So that made me realize how important it is for our voices to be there, because the people in suits are there every legislative session. They are up there lobbying for policies that are killing us, policies that are tearing our families apart, and policies that are putting our children in the prison pipeline. So we need to learn how to make these changes for our families and our communities. And so we meet once a month, and that's an open meeting for anybody who wants to join and just see what we do. We're having trainings. We have one coming up in January. It's a 2-day training on how a bill becomes a bill, how to advocate at the legislative session, and it's going to be 2 days. And then we'll have a little tour of the Capitol, because like the first time we went up there, we didn't know anything. Lauren Johnson did a training for us, and we went up before the session started. And I was standing in the Capitol with her exactly 1 year after my prison release. And it was mind-blowing. So, just to know that I was sitting in prison, and now I'm in the Capitol, and I'm telling people what happened. And there are people in there who need to get out, need to be safe. And so we have 3 pieces of legislation that we're focused on this session. First is our common sense parole bill. And what that means is whenever you're incarcerated, you're convicted, your judge tells you you're eligible for parole at this date. Your attorney tells you, you just get in there and you do the right thing and you're gonna come on home. And so you're in there and you're trying to do the right thing, and there is no method to their madness. They let whoever out and keep whoever they want in. You can do programming, you can do classes. Once you get to that parole office, you don't know what's in that file in front of them because you're not even a real person, you're just a number to them. And so what this bill is asking is for everybody who is on intake to get an individual treatment plan. Now supposedly it's already happening, according to TDCJ. Now, I know it's supposed to be happening, and I know that I never got one, and we have constant contact with people who are inside right now, and there's people, some people are getting it and some people aren't. So this bill would legislate that it would have to happen. Also, the programming that you take will follow you to the parole office, to your parole visit. So on your first eligibility date, once you've gotten your plan, you already know what's expected of you. If I do this, this, and this, then my odds are gonna be better at parole. And if you get denied, they're gonna have to tell you why, not just a number. Like what they do right now is you got denied for nature of crime. That's never gonna change. I don't understand how you can get denied for something that the judge has already said, I'm eligible in a certain time. And so there's a lot more to it, but so the arching goal is just to make it more streamlined for people like us whenever we do, if we, people who are incarcerated, to know what is expected of them and to not just keep moving the carrot, and it will create a better environment within the system. Even though we want to burn it down, but, reality is there's people who are there and we need to help them. And so the second piece of legislation that we're working on is emergency planning within the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. When COVID hit, there were 40,000 people who were eligible for parole that could have been released had they been approved. So that's where that first bill would come in. But they didn't have a plan for them. And so some people were eligible for parole, but had to take certain classes that made no sense, weren't even accredited, but these classes were offered at different units, so since COVID had hit, everything had shut down, there was no plan for them to continue with their classes. So this bill would create an advisory board with somebody who is system impacted to help plan for emergencies. When Hurricane Harvey hit, the pigs had somewhere to go, the farm equipment had somewhere to go. We were told, if the roof blows off, grab your mattress and run to the bathroom. And that's it, We had no air, no heat. It was toxic in there because the toilets had stopped working. You've got 58 women in a room that's just 10. So this bill would help create a human plan to make sure humans survive emergencies. And then finally, we're working on a bill we call New Wings. And We have people here that will explain expungement and non-disclosure. It's a clean slate initiative, which is national. They're trying to make expungement and non-disclosure streamlined for people all across the nation. Here in Texas, there is no expungement. We have non-disclosure, right? Yeah, okay, so non-disclosure. Yes, nothing is automatic. You have to hire an attorney and get all of this stuff done. We have people who explain the details of that. But,
Is this the leadership council?
yes. So we have, so we're working on legislation that would first make it automatic for people who are eligible for non-disclosures. Second, it would expand the eligibility for people who are eligible for non-disclosures. What Statewide Leadership Council is focused on, because I would never qualify. I've been convicted, I did my time. I don't have the option to ask for non-disclosure. New Wings would give me a pathway to petition for non-disclosure after so many years of being out crime-free or whatever stipulations they say make me redeemed. Because at this point in time, I can be out 15 years off paper, doing good, and I'm still gonna go check that box when I go look for a house, a job. Right now, I'm paying rent in a place that is not my own. I paid rent for 3 years, every month on time. Somebody else's mortgage. Somebody else is getting credit for my timely payments. So I think I should be able to benefit for that. So those are our 3 pieces of legislation, and we have folders up here that have information on everything that I just talked about. And there's a website that will help guide you and show you where our meetings are. Okay? One last person, Sean's gonna speak 5 minutes, and then we're gonna eat.
Hey. Hey, and Maggie, can you explain just a little bit, real quick, when
How you
Sean
doing?
gets done, about the rooms and the...
Yeah.
I say 5 minutes. I learned about time when I was incarcerated. I was released in 2020 after serving 27 years, 10 months, 16 days. The reason I rehearse that keeps me humble. That keeps me coming to events like this. When you look around the room, quite frankly, there's not a lot of me's in this room. But the reason that I know that this room is important is because I know that individuals who will never be released from incarceration took the time out to not only provide me instruction and friendship and help, but one of the individuals that I mentored for 10 years, he was allowed to help me find employment in Austin with an organization called Jail to Jobs, where for 2.5 years I was able to provide at-risk youth jobs that day or the next day, ages 15 to 25. That still exists in this city, but currently I work for an organization called Life Anew. And the reason that I asked for time to speak, there is a great disparity between programming that's offered and actual help that's received. So I'm asking anyone in this room, if you are aware of an individual who has been affected by violence, committed acts of violence, belongs to a group or city where they promote violence, please come see me at the table, because I ride around East Austin, North Austin, and the South Side of Austin, just me, seeking to provide friendship and an equitable solution in those circumstances that would either prevent violence or help people work through the violence. So simply put, I'm asking you, if you know anybody on the east side of Austin, the north side of Austin, or the south side of Austin, Life Anew, as well as ATX, the Neighborhood Project, we're trying to stop the pipeline of individuals going to prison. So if someone reaches out to me, my personal phone number, I will help them. I will find help for them, if that's mental, if that's job related, and I'm working on housing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
So I think we're done.